Hello, everyone. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore it must be. Say the story corner. What else? What else do you do on a Monday night, huh? Okay. So let's see who we have in the chat room. We have Regina. Good to see you, my lovely. And Marshall or Mendel. Good to have you here. And more coming as we go on. So anyway, we have a few good stories for you tonight. And we are going to start with our first one, which is called The Paradise in the Sea. Okay, and again, we are reading from Jewish fairy tales and legends. So let us begin. Hiram, king of Tyre, was a foolish man. He lived so long and grew to such a venerable age that he absurdly imagined that he would never die. The idea gained strength daily in his mind, and thus he mused, David, king of the Jews, I knew, and afterwards his son, the wise King Solomon. But wise as he was, Solomon had to appeal to me for assistance in building his wondrous temple. And it was only with the aid of the skilled workmen I sent him that he successfully accomplished the erection of the structure. David, the sweet singer in Israel, who as a mere boy slew the giant Goliath, has passed away. I still live. It must be that I shall never die. Men die, gods live forever. I must be a god. And why not? He put that question to the chief of his counselors, who, however, was much too wise to answer it. Now, the counselors of the king had never yet failed to answer his queries, and so Hiram felt sure he had at last puzzled them by a question beyond the power of mortal men to answer. That was another proof, he told himself, that he was different from other men and kings. That, in short, he was a god. I must be, he muttered to himself, and he repeated this to himself so regularly that he came to the conclusion that it was true. Is it not I, but the voice of the Spirit of God that is in me that speaks, he said to himself. And he thought his remark so clever that he regarded it as still further proof. It is so easy to delude oneself. Then he decided to make the great secret known to the people. And the doddering old man thought if he would do this in an unusual way, his subjects would have no doubts. He did not make a proclamation commanding everybody to believe in him as God. He whispered the secret first to his chief counselor and instructed him to tell it to one person daily and to order all who were informed to do likewise. In this way, the news soon spread to the remotest corners of the country. For if you work out a little sum, you will discover that if you take the figure 1 and double it, thus 2, 4, 8, 16, and so on, it will run into millions. In spite of this, nothing happened. Hiram, now quite idiotic, commanded the people to worship him. Some obeyed, fearing that if they refused, they would be punished or even put to death. Others declared that there was no evidence that the king was a god. This came to the knowledge of Hiram and troubled him sorely. "What proof do the unbelievers require?" he asked his counselors. And they hesitated to reply, but presently the vizier, a shrewd old man with a long beard, said quietly, "I have heard people say God must have a heaven from which to hurl lightning and thunderbolts, and a paradise in which to dwell." "I shall have a heaven and a paradise," said Hiram after a few moments, adding to himself, "If Solomon could build a marvelous temple by the help of my workmen, surely I can devise a paradise." He spent so much time and so much thought over this that it seemed to become easier each day. Besides, it would be so nice to live in a paradise all to himself. At first, he decided to build a great big palace of gold with windows of precious stones. There would be a high tower on which the throne would be placed so far above the people that they must be impressed with the fact that he was a god. Then it occurred to him that this would not do. A palace, however vast and beautiful, would only be a building, not a paradise. Day and night he pondered and worried until his head ached badly. Then, one day, while watching a ship on the sea, an extraordinary idea came into his head. "I will build a palace which will seem to hang above the waters on nothing," he said to himself, chuckling. "None but a god could conceive such a brilliant idea." Hiram sent about his ingenious plan at once. He sent trusted envoys far and wide for skilled divers. Only those who did not know the language of the country were selected. Hiram himself gave them their orders, and they worked only at night, so that none should see or know of their work. Their task was to fasten 4 huge pillars at the bottom of the sea. Their work completed, the divers were well paid and sent away. Next, a different gang of workmen was brought from a strange land. They constructed a platform on the pillars in the sea. Then a third lot of artisans began to erect a wonderful edifice on the platform. They, too, only worked at night, but the building could no longer be concealed. It was showing itself above the sea. The people were therefore told by royal proclamation in these words: I, Hiram, king of Tyre, the king and of all the people, God omnipotent, hereby make known to you that it has become my pleasure to reveal unto you my paradise, which hitherto I have concealed in the clouds. Ye who are worthy shall behold it today. Of all the clever things he had done, Hiram believed the composition of that proclamation to be the cleverest. Those who do not see will think themselves unworthy, he said, and will tremble in fear of my wrath. They will see a little more each day and will think themselves growing worthy. And they will believe, they must, when they see it all. Besides, they will look upward toward the clouds to see the paradise descending. They will never think of looking below to see it rising. And so it happened. The people could not help but be impressed when they saw the amazing structure. It grew daily, appearing of its own accord, for no workmen were ever seen. The most wonderful of all, it seemed to rest on nothing but the air. This was because the first story was of clearest glass, so clear indeed that the people saw through it and thought they saw nothing. On this, the other stories were erected, and, of course, they appeared to be suspended in space. There were 7 stories to represent 7 heavens. The second one, the one above the glass, was constructed of iron. The third was of lead. The fourth of shining brass. The fifth of burnished copper. The sixth of glistening silver. And the last story of all of pure gold. The whole building was lavishly studded with precious stones, gems, and jewels of many hues. Day by day, when the sun shone and was reflected from the thousands of jewels and the polished metals, the appearance was dazzling. The people could not help but regard as a heaven that which they could scarcely look upon without being blinded. In the setting sun, the uppermost story, with its huge golden dome, glowed like an expanse of fire, and by night the myriad gems twinkled like additional stars. Yet, some people would not believe this was a paradise. And so, Hiram had to set his wits to work again. Thunder and lightning I must produce, he said, and this part of his ambition he found not at all difficult. In the second story, he kept huge boulders and round heavy stones. When these were rolled about, the people thought the noise was thunder. By means of many revolving windows and reflectors, Hiram could flash a light on the town and delude simple people who were easily impressed and frightened into the belief that they saw lightning. "When I am seated here above the forces of the storm," said Hiram, "the people must surely accept me as God and extol me above all mortal kings." He was foolishly happy on his throne in the clouds, but his counselors shook their heads. They knew that such folly would meet with its due punishment. They warned Hiram against remaining in the paradise during a storm, but he replied in a rage, "I, the God of the storm, am not afraid." But when the real thunder rolled and the lightning flashed all around his paradise, Hiram lost his courage. He saw visions. Trembling in every limb, he crouched on his throne and imagined he saw angels and demons and fairies dancing around him and jeering at his pretensions and his wonderful structure. The storm grew fiercer, the lightning more vivid, the thunder crashes louder, and Hiram screamed when there was a tremendous noise of crashing glass. The first story could not withstand the terrible buffeting of the waves. It cracked and crumbled. There was no support left for the six heavens above. They could no longer hang in space. With a mighty crash that struck terror into the hearts of the beholders, the whole structure collapsed in 1,000 pieces in the sea. Marvelous to relate, Hiram was not killed or drowned. It seemed a miracle that he should have been saved. But such was the case, and some people thought that proved him to be a god more than his unfortunate paradise. But his life was only spared to end in greater misery and sorrow. He was dethroned by Nebuchadnezzar and ended his days a wretched captive. And all the people knew that Hiram, once the great king of Tyre, the friend of King David and King Solomon, was but a mortal and a foolish one. So there you have it. Veronica has joined us. Good to see you, Veronica. Okay, so this story, the next story, may sound a little familiar. We shall see. Anyway, this story is called The Rabbi's Boogeyman. Okay. Rabbi Leon. That's actually spelled lion. You know that's actually spelled lion. I know it's actually spelled lion, but it's the Spanish pronunciation Leon. Okay, I like it. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi Leon of the ancient city of Prague sat in his study in the ghetto, looking very troubled. Through the window, he could see the river Moldau with its narrow streets of the Jewish quarter clustered around the cemetery, which still stands today. And there is to be seen the famous man's tomb. Beyond the ghetto rose the towers and the spires of the city, but just at the moment, it was not the cruelty of the people to the Jews that occupied the rabbi's thoughts. He was unable to find a servant, even one to attend the fire on the Sabbath for him. Oh, the poor man. Oh, my goodness. What could he possibly do? The truth was that the people were a little afraid of the rabbi. He was a very learned man, wise and studious, and a scientist. And because he did wonderful things, people thought him a magician. His experiments in chemistry frightened them. Late at night, they saw little spurts of blue and red flame shine from his window, and they said that demons and witches came at his beck and call. So, nobody would enter his service. Sounding familiar? We'll see. If, as they declare, I am truly a magician, he said to himself, why should I not make for myself a servant, one that will tend the fire for me on the Sabbath? He set to work on his novel idea, and in a few weeks had completed his mechanical creature, a woman. She looked like a big, strong, laboring woman, and the rabbi was greatly pleased with his handiwork. Now, to endow it with life, he said. Carefully, in the silence of his mysterious study at midnight, he wrote out the unpronounceable sacred name of God on a piece of parchment. Then he rolled it up and placed it in the mouth of the creature. Immediately it sprang up and began to move like a living thing. It rolled its eyes, waved its arms, and nearly walked through the window. In alarm, Rabbi Leon snatched the parchment from its mouth, and the creature fell helpless to the floor. I must be careful, said the rabbi. It is a wonderful machine with its many springs and screws and levers, and will be most useful to me as soon as I learn to control it properly. All the people marveled when they saw the rabbi's machine woman, running errands and doing many duties, controlled only by his thoughts. She could do everything but speak. I'm not going to say. There is so many comments that just came into my head, but I am not going to say it because I'm smarter than that. What can I tell you? Okay, anyway, so. And the Rabbi Leon discovered that he must take the name from her mouth before he went to sleep. Otherwise, she might have done mischief. One cold Sabbath afternoon, the rabbi was preaching in the synagogue. Any idea what synagogue that was? The New Old Synagogue in Prague. It is still there. Anyway, and the little children stood outside his house looking at the machine woman seated by the window. When they rolled their eyes, she did. and at last they shouted, "Come and play with us!" She promptly jumped through the window and stood among the boys and the girls. "We are cold," said one. "Canst thou make a fire for us?" The creature was made to obey orders. So she at once collected sticks and lit a fire in the street. Then, with the children, she danced around the blaze in great glee. She piled on all the sticks and old barrels she could find, and soon the fire spread and caught a house. The children ran away in fear while the fire blazed so furiously that the whole town became alarmed. Before the flames could be extinguished, a number of houses had been burned down and much damage done. The creature could not be found, and only when the parchment with the name, which could not be burned, was discovered amid the ashes, it was known that she had been destroyed in the conflagration. So, we are going to take our pause right here. We are going to take a 6-minute break. And when we return, we will find out more about what happened to the machine woman and what does Rabbi Leon do after this. So please, everybody, stay tuned. We will be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. So, let us find out what happened to Rabbi Leon and his woman that he made. So, let's find out. Okay, so where did we leave off here? Okay. So, I just back up and read you the last sentence before we went on the break. The creature could not be found, and only when the parchment with the name, which could not burn, was discovered amid the ashes, it was known that she had been destroyed in the conflagration. The city council of the city was indignant when they learned of the strange occurrence, and Rabbi Leon was summoned to appear before King Rudolph himself. "What is this I hear?" asked his majesty. "Is it not a sin to make a living creature?" "It had no life but that which the sacred name gave it," replied the rabbi. "I understand it not," said the king. "Wilt thou be imprisoned and must make another creature so that I may see it for myself? If it is as you sayest, thy life shall be spared. If not, if in truth thou profanest God's sacred law, and makest a living thing, thou shalt die, and all thy people shall be expelled from this city." Rabbi Leon at once set to work, and this time made a man much bigger than the woman that had been burned. Your Majesty sees, said the rabbi, when his task was completed, it is but a creature of wood and glue with springs and the joints. Now observe, and he put the sacred name in its mouth. Slowly the creature rose to its feet and saluted the monarch, who was so delighted that he cried, "Give him to me, Rabbi!" "That cannot be," said Rabbi Leon solemnly. "The sacred name must not pass from my possession. Otherwise, the creature may do great damage again. This time I shall take care and will not use the men on the Sabbath." The king saw the wisdom of this and set the rabbi at liberty and allowed him to take the creature to his house. And of course, nothing could possibly go wrong now, right? We shall see. The Jews looked on in wonderment when they saw the creature walking along the street by the side of Rabbi Leon. But the children ran away in fear, crying, "The boogeyman!" The rabbi exercised caution with his boogeyman this time, and every Friday, just before Sabbath commenced, he took the name from its mouth so as to render it powerless. It became more wonderful every day, and one evening it startled the rabbi from a doze by beginning to speak. "I want to be a soldier," it said, "and fight for the king. I belong to the king. You made me for him." "Silence!" cried Rabbi Leon, and it had to obey. "I like not this," said the rabbi to himself. "This master must not become my master, or it will destroy me and perhaps all the Jews." He could not help but wonder whether the king was right and that it must be a sin to create a man. The creature not only spoke, but grew surly and disobedient. And yet the rabbi hesitated to break it up, for it was most useful to him. You see, it did all his cooking, washing, and cleaning, and 3 servants could not have performed the work so neatly and quickly. One Friday afternoon, when the rabbi was preparing to go to the synagogue, he heard a loud noise in the street. "Come quickly," the people shouted at his door. "Your boogeyman is trying to get into the synagogue." Rabbi Leon rushed out in a state of alarm. The monster had slipped from the house and was battering down the doors of the synagogue. "What art thou doing?" demanded the rabbi sternly. "Trying to get into the synagogue to destroy the scrolls of the holy law," answered the monster. "Then wilt thou have no power over me, and I shall make a great army of boogeymen who shall fight for the king and kill all the Jews." "I will kill thee first," exclaimed the Rabbi Leon, and springing forward he snatched the parchment with the name so quickly from the creature's mouth that it collapsed at his feet, a mass of broken springs and pieces of wood and glue. For many years afterward, these pieces were shown to visitors in the attic of the synagogue when the story was told of the rabbi's boogeyman. Now, if you go to Prague today to the new old shul and you go up into the attic there's a room up there that is locked and has been locked for a very long time. No one has the key. No one can get in. They say that is where the rabbi's man of mud lives now, to this day, waiting for the day for the rabbi to bring him back. Okay, so there we go. Also, Simcha and Ronald and Yehuda are all here too. Good to have you all here this evening. Okay, last story. Okay, not a long one, but a good one. Okay, so this one is called The Fairy Frog. Once upon a time, there lived a man of learning and wealth who had an only son named Hanina. To his son, who was grown up and married, he sent a messenger asking that he should immediately come to his father. Hanina obeyed and found both his father and his mother lying very ill. "No, my son," said the old man, "we are about to die. Grieve not, for it has been so ordained. We have been companions through life, and we are to be privileged to leave this world together. You will mourn for us the customary 7 days. They will end on the eve of the festival of Pesach. On that day, go forth into the marketplace and purchase the first thing offered to thee, no matter what it is or what the cost that may be demanded. It will, in due course, bring thee good fortune. Hearken unto my words, my son, and all will be well." Hanina promised obedience to this strange injunction of his father, and events fell out in accordance with the old man's prediction. The aged couple died on the same day, were buried together, and after a week of mourning, on the day preceding the Pesach festival, Hanina made his way to the marketplace, wondering what adventure was in store for him. He had scarcely entered the marketplace, where all manner of wares were displayed, when an old man approached him, carrying a silver casket of curious design. "Purchase this, my son," he said. "It will bring you good fortune." "What does it contain?" asked Hanina. "That I may not inform thee," was the reply. "Indeed, I cannot, for I know not." "Oh, I see. This is like what they call a Schrodinger's casket, huh?" Okay, that was a joke. That was a math joke. We'll see if anybody gets it. Okay, anyway, so back to the story. Only the purchaser can open it at the feast with which begins the Pesach. Naturally, Hanina was impressed by these words. Matters were shaping just as his father foretold. "What is the price?" he asked. 1,000 gold pieces. That was an enormous sum, nearly the whole that he possessed. But Hanina, remembering his vow, paid the money, and took the casket home. It was placed upon the table that night when the Pesach festival began. On being opened, it was found to contain a smaller casket. This was open, and out sprang a frog. Wait a minute, didn't I see this in a Bugs Bunny cartoon? The Michigan J frog kind of thing? Yeah, okay. Anyway, back to the story. Hanina's wife was sorely disappointed, but she gave food to the frog, which devoured everything greedily. So much did the creature eat that when the Pesach had ended in 8 days, it had grown to an enormous size. Hanina built a cabinet for this strange possession, but it continued to grow and soon required a special shed. Hanina was seriously puzzled, for the frog ate so ravenously that he and his wife had little food for themselves. But they made no complaint, although their hardship increased daily. They were compelled to dispose of almost everything they possessed to keep the frog supplied with food. And at last, they were left in a state of abject poverty. Then only did the courage of Hanina's wife give way, and she began to cry. To her astonishment, the frog, which was now bigger than a man, spoke to her. "Listen to me, wife of the faithful Hanina," it said. "Ye have treated me well. Therefore ask of me what ye will, and I shall carry out your wishes." "Give us food," sobbed the woman. "It is here," said the frog, and at that very moment there was a knock at the door, and a huge basket of food was delivered. Hanina had not yet spoken, and the frog asked him to name his desire. "A frog that speaks and performs wonders must be wise and learned," said Hanina. "I wish that thou shouldest teach me the lore of men." The frog agreed, and his method of teaching was extremely strange. He wrote out the law and the 70 known languages on strips of paper. These he ordered Hanina to swallow. Hanina did so and became acquainted with everything, even the language of the beasts and the birds. All men regarded him as the most learned sage of all time. One day the frog spoke again. "The day has arrived," he said, "when I must repay you for all the kindness you have shown me. Your reward shall be great. Come with me to the woods, and you shall see marvels performed." Hanina and his wife followed the giant frog to the woods very early one morning, and the comical figure it presented as it hobbled along. Arriving at the woods, the frog cried out in its croaking voice, "Come, O ye inhabitants of the trees, the caves, the streams, and do my bidding. Bring precious stones from the depths of the earth, and the roots and herbs." Then began the queerest procession. Hundreds upon hundreds of birds came twittering through the trees. Thousands upon thousands of insects came crawling from holes in the ground. And all the animals of the woods, from the tiniest to the monsters, came in answer to the call of the frog. Each group brought some gift and laid it at the feet of Hanina and his wife, who soon... You gonna make it? Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it, yeah. Maybe not so much with the frog voice. Yeah, okay, maybe not. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so Hanina and his wife stood in some alarm. Soon, a great pile of precious stones and herbs was heaped before them. All these belong to you, said the frog, pointing at the jewels. Of equal worth are the herbs and the roots with which ye can cure all diseases. Because ye obeyed the wishes of the dying, and did not question me, ye are now rewarded. Hanina and his wife thanked the frog, and then the former said, May we not know who thou art? Yes, replied the frog, I am the very son of Adam, gifted with the power of assuming any form. Farewell. With these words, the frog began to grow smaller and smaller until it was the size of an ordinary frog. Then it hopped into a stream and disappeared, and all the denizens of the woods returned to their haunts. Hanina and his wife made their way home with their treasures. They became famous for their wealth, their wisdom, and their charity, and lived in happiness with all peoples for many, many years. And that, my friends, it comes to the end of our story time for tonight. Okay, don't forget that tomorrow is the Rabbis Discuss with Rabbi Ansel and Rabbi Ariel. And then Wednesday is the Torah study. Friday evening at 8 p.m., all times are Eastern. Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Kabbalat and Mariv Shabbat service for what is the second day of Hanukkah. And then on Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit Musaf. And then right back here on next Monday, and we will tell the story of the princess in the tower. Hope to see you then. Until then, everyone, we shall simply say, Laila Tov.